Today we will be pinning the greatest predators in nature against each other, but not in a battle royale or tournament sense. I want to know who is the best at what they do, and that is hunt. And I will be taking a couple of factors into consideration when considering where I should place them on a tier list. First, and maybe most important, is their success rate. Now, success rate isn't the determining factor that tells us how effective a predator is, although it is a big indicator that a predator is successful. The success rate can definitely afford to be lower if the predator hunts larger prey, for example. Secondly, how long their strategy has worked throughout the course of time. Now, this one is a bit iffy for mammals mostly, and maybe even birds, because they haven't been around long enough for their strategies to be considered for their longevity. And thirdly, how versatile their strategy is, meaning how well it can adapt to changes in the environment, for example. But this is probably the one that is the least important. But besides all of these points, there are some other unique factors depending on what kind of animal I'm talking about, and I will be taking those into consideration too, obviously. Now, before we start, I just want to let you know to subscribe, like, all that if you enjoy, and also if you like it, then please comment that you want a part 2, because this is only scratching the surface. I mean, there is so much more to talk about, so many more great hunters that I didn't even mention in this video. God damn it, there's a fly in my room. Anyways, based on these factors, I will place each of these animals on a tier list from F to S tier, although I don't think I'll be needing the F tier really all that much. A lot of these will be surprisingly low, but that is because it is extremely difficult to get into S tier. But anyways, let's get started with the first class, mammals. The first mammals that I will talk about are the big cats. Possibly the first thing when we think of hunters in nature, and for good reason. Now, the two most famous and largest ones are the lion and the tiger. Lions are the only cats in the world that hunt in groups. This gives them a little bit of a different dynamic, and their strategies are a little bit different compared to other cats that use stealth to approach prey. These prides, if experienced and large enough, can bring down some of the most formidable animals on the planet, such as Cape buffalo, juvenile elephants, and even fully grown giraffes. These feats are extremely impressive, but this is only for the select few prides that, again, are equipped for this. Their hunting success rate is between 20 to 30%, which isn't the best. However, one hunt can feed them for quite a bit. Now, most cats have a similar strategy which revolves around their stealth, their ability to get as close to the prey as possible without detection. This is the strategy that most cats use, so it is quite versatile. However, considering everything, I have to put the lions at a high C tier. Now, again, that does seem low, but trust me, they are better than most predators in C tier, but I don't think they quite deserve the B tier. Now, the tiger is the largest of the big cats, and it is a solo hunter. The tiger takes stealth to a whole new level, sometimes getting within 10 meters of its prey before pouncing. Now, this is of course made easier by the fact that their environment and habitat is a lot more lush, and it's much easier to hide there. But I think what gives the tiger an edge over the lion is the fact that it is a solo hunter, meaning that one hunt can feed it for a lot longer than a pride of lions, because it can take down animals by itself just as large as a pride of lions can. Axis deer are probably their smallest prey, but other than that, they hunt wild boar, buffalo, young rhinos and elephants, and sometimes the Siberian tiger will even run fades with bears. its hunting success rate is only between 5 to 10%, which is surprisingly low. But it doesn't need a whole lot of energy for one single hunt. Plus, if a hunt is successful, as I mentioned before, it can live off of that hunt for a long time. Or at least a pretty long time, longer than a pride of lions can. Their strategy and overall build is quite versatile and very successful, stretching all the way from tropical environments in India and Indonesia to more temperate environments in China, and of course the Siberian tiger in much colder environments, although they are only in a single forest in Siberia. Taking all these things into consideration, I have to give the tiger a C tier as well. I do think it is lower than the lion simply due to the fact that their hunting success rate is a lot lower, but as I said before, that can mostly be excused, but I'm just gonna place it one lower. Let's move on to some more successful cats. Cheetahs, for example. Now, I know these guys are the bullied kids of the African savanna, getting their kills easily stolen by a lot of other predators. However, if we're basing this on their pure hunting skills, then these guys are the cream of the crop. Is that the saying? I'm pretty sure that's... They're like a cheerleader in high school. They're good at what they do, but because of this, they can't help but keep getting fucked. Cheetahs choose their prey very decisively, often spotting them from a distance and never taking their eyes off the target. They use eyesight more than smell or sound to keep track of their prey and to detect their prey, which is why this cat actually hunts more during the daytime. They get between 30 to 40 meters of their prey, and then the chase begins. Using their legendary speed, they catch up to their prey and then trip them with a swipe of their paw. And afterwards, they deliver the final blow. Their adaptability isn't the best in the world, however, they used to be successful pretty much anywhere there was a large plot of grassland, before human intervention, of course. North America and Asia housed species of cheetahs in their respective grassland ecosystems. Also, their hunting success rate is around 50%. So I think this is our first B tier. However, I believe that the most successful big cats are the jaguar and the mountain lion. The mountain lion is the most successful predator in the Americas if you consider range. They stretch all the way from Canada to the tip of Argentina. They come within 6 to 15 meters of their wanted target and then attack. In some regions, they hunt alpacas and llamas, which are their largest prey, and so in these regions their success rate drops a bit. But their success rate is much higher where they hunt deer. In fact, in some parts they are so successful that wolves have started to follow them around and started stealing their kills. Now the mountain lion, picking up on this, always makes an extra kill that it drops for the wolves, and the other kill it keeps for itself. Now, I heard this on the Joe Rogan podcast, so don't fact check me. Anyways, this lands them a hunting success rate of anywhere between 30 to 40%, which is incredible considering the range they inhabit, the fact that it hunts alone, and the fact that it uses stealth. Considering everything, these guys are going in a high B tier. I believe that the best big cat hunter is the jaguar. They have a hunting success rate of around 40 to 50%, which is a little bit more than the mountain lions, which is astounding for a cat that, again, uses stealth. But it's not just that. It's the fact that they hunt such a variety of prey. Even other predators, like the caiman, aren't safe from this absolute beast. It is the apex predator in possibly the densest, most hostile, crowded ecosystem in the world. And for this reason, I am giving it a solid A tier. Now let's move on to the other big group of mammalian hunters, the dogs. Now smaller dogs like the coyote, fox, and jackal aren't that great in my opinion when it comes to hunting. Despite being widespread and having a pretty large success rate, they hunt very small prey most of the time, and I think that their range is more a result of their ability to take advantage of human societies, especially the fox. I think most of these guys belong in D or C tier. However, if a coyote teams up with a badger and it is hunting a prairie dog, then that can be moved up to B tier possibly, because then their success rate climbs up drastically. But that again is more of a result of their teamwork and isn't really the result of just the coyote, but it's still worth considering in my opinion. I think the best dogs are the pack hunting dogs. The dogs that use team strategies and tactics to take down prey that can feed them for a long time. The example that first comes to mind is obviously the wolf. And for good reason. Wolves are the largest canids alive today, and also one of the most widespread, stretching all across the northern hemisphere. They of course use team strategies to take down their prey, but not in the same way that lions do. Lions use stealth and short bursts of speed to direct the prey very quickly, whereas wolves exhaust their prey with their superior stamina and endurance. They bite at the prey's hind legs and hamstrings. Now, success rate is a bit weird, since an experienced pack of wolves can take down prey much more efficiently than an inexperienced pack of wolves. But for large prey like elk, bison, and moose, their general success rate is between 10 and 20%. However, they hunt very often, which means that they usually have a relatively steady supply of meat on the table. For smaller prey like whitetail or mule deer, this success rate can rise up to 50% or maybe even more than that. Considering all of this, I'll put the wolves in B tier. It's right up there with the cheetah, maybe even better. Although I do think that the mountain lion takes the cake when it comes to a better hunter. However, I think the best example of this social pack hunting strategy is the African wild dog. They have the most complex and tight social bonds out of any canids, and some of the most tight and complex social bonds out of any animal on the planet, period. These packs can be up to 20 members strong, with each of them having a role in the hunting process. Some chase, some block escape routes, and some flank. And while doing this, they are constantly communicating with each other through chirps, body language, and other forms of vocalization. Their usual prey is an impala, gazelle, zebra, or maybe even a wildebeest. Like wolves, they use their stamina to chase the prey for about 3 to 5 kilometers until it is pretty much exhausted, and then they start to surround it and start biting at, again, its hind legs and hamstrings. However, they are doing something much better than the wolves, because their hunting success rate is between 70 to 90%. This is by far the most and the highest success rate for a larger mammalian predator. I think this makes the African wild dog our first confident S tier, and it is the best mammalian hunter out of what I'm gonna discuss today. Let's move on to the world of reptilians. And this is when we can really start to take into consideration how long a strategy has worked over the course of time. Let's start with snakes. Most snakes use stealth to kill their prey. A lot of them use venom, which oftentimes immobilizes or kills the prey within one single strike. The other extremely successful group of snakes are the constrictors. Constrictors like boas, pythons, and anacondas are all used to describe a penis, and are also the best example of this kind of hunter. They latch onto the prey and then they wrap themselves around it. And after this, one of the most horribly sounding things in nature starts to happen. Each time the prey exhales, the constrictor will constrict its muscles with that exhale. So once all of the air is out of your lungs, you are never breathing in again. After the prey is dead, it is swallowed whole, which is true for most snakes. Both of these types of snakes have a success rate of anywhere between 60 to 80%, which is quite impressive. We are starting off strong with both of these making it to a high A tier. Moving on to the Komodo dragon, the largest lizard in the world. This thing possesses some venom that is used to take down extremely large prey like the water buffalo. This thing will again sneak up on its prey, and all it needs is one single bite. And after that, the prey is almost certainly finished. The Komodo dragon will follow the prey until it succumbs to the venom, and then the feast will begin. I think the Komodo dragon deserves a B tier. It could be another A tier. However, it only lives on a single island in Asia, and for that, I do have to deduct some points. And now let's move on to the last class of Let's move on to the last class of reptilians I will be talking about today, which are the crocodilians. Crocodiles have barely changed over the course of tens of millions of years. And it's clear to see why. Their strategy is very, very efficient. They are extremely patient and surprisingly cunning hunters. If they see an animal show up at the same part of a body of water multiple times, it will start waiting at that part of the water and waiting for that animal to return to its drinking spot. It can wait there for days, maybe even weeks, lying pretty much still until one single fraction of a second it lunges out of the water, taking the prey into the water, dragging it and drowning it, and then the death roll begins, which will tear the prey to shreds. Before grabbing the prey, the success rate is around 50%. However, after grabbing the prey, it is nearly 100%. I think crocodiles deserve an S tier. I don't think that alligators or caiman can quite squeeze their way into S tier because they don't hunt prey as large most of the time. But things like Nile crocodiles and salt crocodiles, I think, deserve their place on the top. They are old boys. They have been around for a long time, and their strategy hasn't needed to change. Now, are these crocodiles better than the African wild dogs? I think they might be by a little bit, just because, again, of their longevity. You know what? No, the African wild dog is better. Now, it's bird time. The first predators we think of when we think of bird hunters are birds of prey, meaning eagles, hawks, falcons, and owls. Eagles are the largest and strongest of this group. Fishing eagles have a success rate of anywhere between 50 to 70%, while the golden eagle just has a success rate of 20 to 40%. But their prey is much larger most of the time. Once they have spotted a prey, they will dive down at speeds of 100 to 160 kilometers an hour and use their massive talons to pretty much immobilize the prey immediately. Now, hawks, while they do carry a haunting image of the past, I don't think they're as good as eagles. They're pretty much just a smaller version of the eagles, and I don't think they are quite as good. Moving on to falcons, they are quite different, especially the peregrine falcon, which is the best falcon. The peregrine falcon almost exclusively hunts other birds. It does this by first spotting the prey from very high above, and then it starts the dive. Peregrine falcons can reach up to 400 kilometers an hour while diving, and this is the fastest animal in the world. While diving, the falcon can change its trajectory by slightly moving its wings and tail. It either slashes the prey with its claws, punches it, or hits it with its beak. Each of these will most certainly knock out the prey at the very least, but it oftentimes is enough to kill the prey pretty much instantly. With a success rate of about 50%, the peregrine falcon is solid. Now for the owls. Owls are the most stealthy birds of prey out there. They're probably one of the most stealthy hunters in nature, but does that help them? Abso-fucking-lutely. Some owls have an average hunting success rate of about 80%. Now granted, they do hunt pretty small prey. Usually all they really need to do is just grab them and fly off. Now where would I place all of these? The lowest is the hawk at a solid C tier. Nothing astonishing, just pretty good. I would place the peregrine falcon above the hawk, but not quite in B tier just yet. That is reserved for most eagles and owls. However, I do think that maybe the barn owl and the golden eagle can just squeeze their way into A tier. The barn owl because it has the highest success rate, and the golden eagle because it hunts prey that is absolutely massive. We're not letting this meme die. The secretary bird is like the secret boss in a video game that's harder to beat than anything you faced in the actual story of the game. The secretary bird is every small animal's nightmare. They actually hunt from the ground, unlike pretty much any other bird, and they usually hunt in pairs. Once a prey has been spotted, they will start chasing it, and once within striking range, they will hit it with those model legs, which can strike with a force 5 times more than their body weight. They strike extremely fast and extremely efficiently, targeting the spine or skull. Now, secretary birds have a success rate of between 60 to 90%, and I think they are an extremely high A tier, or maybe they can squeeze their way into S tier. I'm not quite sure. I'll let you guys decide that one in the comments. Now let's leave the land and travel to the seas. Under the sea, under the sky, the sea, it calls me, and no one knows. Now, what predator is more famous in the waters than sharks? Bit of a fun fact, sharks possess electroreception, meaning they can sense the tiniest movements around them. This is even better than echolocation, which is used by bats and another animal that we'll be discussing a bit later. But anyways, let's start where everything great starts, and that is with the great white. And right now I'm not talking about the dick of my mom's doctor. Great white sharks hunt by sneaking up on their prey from below or behind them, and then launching up into the air to kill them, or at least injure them severely. I don't know how any seal would survive or escape from this, but great whites have a success rate of between 30 to 60%, depending on whether the sneak up was successful or if it needs to chase it. This thing is going into B tier. Tiger sharks are very stealthy hunters. Hunting all sorts of prey, they approach really slowly, and then in a burst of speed, they catch their prey. And they have a much higher success rate than the white monster, with about a 60 to 80% success rate on average. And I am debating on whether to put this in a high B tier or A tier. I think they deserve an A tier. Alright, most sharks are in the C to B range, so I'm not gonna go over all of them. Let's move on to the swordfish. Wait, it's also important to mention that sharks have also been around for millions of years, although their strategies have most likely changed over the course of this history, so I can't really rank a lot of them based on how long their strategy has worked. I'm sure that a lot of them have worked for a long time, but I'm just a lazy son of a bitch. Anyways, let's move on to the swordfish. This thing is a menace. It swings its massive sword around super quickly to catch fish. Not to mention it is the fastest swimming fish in the world. And while there is no clear percentage, it is believed that their hunting success rate is extremely high. Most likely in the 80s, maybe even 90s. So I think with a bit of extra leniency, these guys can go into S tier. It is a low S tier. I think it is the worst animal so far in S tier, but an S tier nonetheless. However, it is still not the best aquatic predator in the world. That title, in my opinion, belongs to the killer whale. These guys are often called the wolves of the sea, but that is a compliment to the wolves, not the orca, because wolves would be happy any day of the week to be compared to these guys. They have the luxury of being able to play with their food. Some have been seen tossing around a dead baby shark like it is a volleyball. In fact, they sometimes hunt sharks. They take advantage of something called the tonic immobility of sharks, which essentially means that if you just flip it upside down, then it is pretty much paralyzed. Now, how did they figure this out? With their extremely good intelligence. I think these guys are by far the most complex, versatile, and social animals I have discussed. And they might be some of the most complex, versatile, and social animals on the planet, being right up there with great apes, and sometimes even humans. The orcas that hunt mammals, like seals, have a success rate of anywhere between 70 to 90%. And there is unfortunately less information on the fish hunters, but either way, this thing is going to the top of the tier list in my opinion. This is the best hunter I have discussed so far, and I think there might only be one more predator that can be better. But we'll get to that when we get to that. And we're getting to it in the last segment, which is about insects. Alright, each of these classes could get a video of their own. Mammals, reptiles, and fish. And I haven't even discussed amphibians. I might discuss that in a part 2. But bugs would deserve it the most. For time's sake, I'll talk about the more famous ones, starting with spiders. Surprisingly, it is probably the web-weaving spiders that are the worst, but they can kind of afford to be since their hunting strategy takes very little energy. After they've weaved their web, all they need to do is just wait for a fly to fly into the trap. But after entrapment, their success rate is between 5 to 30%. I think these guys belong in C tier. They're not very good. They belong in the lower ladder of C tier. Maybe even a D tier. Best spider hunters are the jumping spider and the trapdoor spider, both of which are going in A tier. I'm just trying to speed things up here, okay? Next up, wasps. The true assholes of nature. I really hate these guys. No, not really. I love all animals except mosquitoes. Wasps hunt by essentially pouncing on their prey and using their stinger to immobilize them, which is a surprisingly effective strategy. So, unfortunately, I have to put these guys in A tier. Next up is the praying mantis, which is fitting because it is constantly praying for its victims. Praying mantis blends into its environment perfectly. they stay as still as a rock and wait for the prey to come to them. And then, when they're in striking distance, they will grab the prey in a fraction of a second with incredible grip strength. They have a success rate of anywhere between 70 to 90%, making them an easy S tier. However, there is one more that I want to talk about. The dragonfly is probably the closest thing to a perfect hunter as we're ever going to get on this planet. Their vision is even better than the mantises, getting a full 360-degree vision. They can see colors, movements, and even UV lights. They use predictions to calculate where their prey will be, and then they strike there. Now, this strategy has worked not for millions, tens of millions, but for hundreds of millions of years, being some of the first terrestrial animals to have ever evolved, and they have barely changed over that time. However, this alone isn't enough to put them in S tier. What really sells it is their astonishing 95% hunting success rate, which is incredible. It is by far the largest, the highest that any hunter is on this list. So this is going right next to the killer whale. Now, I can't really decide which one is better because the killer whale is so much more versatile, so much more intelligent, so much more strategic. But it is hard to argue with the hundreds of millions of incredible success that the dragonflies have found. I'm going to leave this to you guys. Which one do you think is better? Because I can't decide. Comment below. And also, if you want a part 2, then also, bro, this goddamn fly. Like, subscribe, and if you want a part 2, comment that you want a part 2. But I'm probably gonna make a part 2 if this gets enough views, likes, and all that. Anyways, goodbye.